Your Bishop Garrigan Golden Bears are headed to the state title game this Thursday. Welcome back to BG Game Preview. I'm your host, Lucy Eisenbarth, and your Garrigan Bears are going back to the state title game with a dominant win over Audubon. We're going to hit a recap rewind on this game and look to Garrigan's opponent, the Woodbine Tigers, who they played this Thursday. We're going to see how this team got here and how they performed versus Gladbrook Rhinebeck. I'll also be giving my predictions for the game. Also, side note, before we jump into it, the reason I am dressed in a blazer and a turtleneck is because I just came from Districts DECA. I thought I might as well keep the fit on, be professional, since it is a state title game. Here's a picture from me competing, and there's me with my first place plaque. Without further ado, make sure you like, subscribe, and go follow BG Game Preview before we start this episode. Without further ado, let's get right into this episode's State Championship Edition. Starting off with a recap of Garrigan's 60-36 win versus Audubon. Garrigan went down in this game to start after the first quarter. It was 8-6 going into the second, and Garrigan really just picked it up in the second quarter and really dominated this whole game. Looking over to his stat line side of things, Tate Firch completed 4 of his 5 passes for 81 yards, 3 touchdowns, while rushing for 63 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. Sorry for the weird cutoff on the video. I had to clear up some iCloud storage. It told me that I had no more storage and I could not film any more videos, which was kind of scary. Where I left off, though, leading rusher for Garrigan was senior Ethan Marceau. On 29 attempts, had 111 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Leader in receiving yards was Michael Joyce, a junior, with 1 reception for 38 yards and a touchdown. And leading the defense was Ethan Marceau with 8.5 tackles. Looking over to Audubon stats, sophomore Aiden Keshgard completed 5 of his 9 passes for 43 yards and 0 touchdowns, while rushing for 129 yards off of 28 attempts for 3 touchdowns. He was the leader in rushing for the Wheelers last Wednesday. Leading receiver was Brody Weber, a senior, with 2 receptions for 25 yards and 0 touchdowns, and leading the defense was a senior, Austin Christensen, with 14 tackles. Looking at Audubon's overall team stats, they had 2 passing interceptions on the day and only 43 passing yards. Looking over at rushing, they had 44 rushing attempts for 204 yards, averaged 4.6 yards per carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, they had 0 tackles for loss, 0 sacks, 0 fumble recoveries or forced fumbles, and 0 interceptions. Now, looking over at this Garrigan offense, Tate Firch did throw 3 passing touchdowns last week, and Garrigan as a team had 51 rushing attempts for 209 rushing yards, averaged 4.1 yards per carry, and 5 rushing touchdowns. Garrigan on the defensive side of the ball had 1 tackle for loss and 0 sacks on the day, but 1 forced fumble and 4 fumble recoveries last Wednesday. Audubon also had 2 interceptions, one of which was brought down by Madden Miller and taken back for a good chunk of yards, and the other one I believe was Tate Firch. Do not quote me on that, though. I am not sure. Regardless, just a dominant win overall for Garrigan. Started off a little rough, but really in that second quarter went to town and really just ended the game right there. A dominant run in the third quarter also helped cut out again, but like I said, just an overall dominant win for Garrigan. A really well-played game on the defensive side of things. They adjusted to the run from Audubon. They were able to adjust nicely, smoothly, and they were able to stop them really early. With that, let's go take a look at Garrigan's opponent in this championship game, the Woodbine Tigers. Woodbine has been a team that I've kind of mentioned in and out of my videos because they play a generally different style than most 8-man teams do. The traditional style of 8-man is a lot of rushing, a lot of running, a lot of QB sneaks, a lot of quarterback running, and a lot of really good running backs in general. Woodbine seems to have a less of a rushing offense and more of a passing offense. You see this as their wide receiver, Landon Bloom, is a 4-star with multiple D1 offers. The QB Broden Pryor also is a great weapon and is a great quarterback who is up against Tate Firch for Mr. IA football this year. Anyway, Woodbine going into this game is undefeated. Woodbine has wins over Lennox 52-8, Sydney 86-6, Fairmont Hills 54-12, Stanton 76-6, East Mills 74-0, Coon Rapids Bayard on Woodbine's homecoming, 70-6. Boyer Valley 62-7, Exira EHK 78-6, Southeast Warren in the second round of playoffs. Exira was the first, 68-0. In the quarterfinals versus Fairmont Hills again, 50-12, and in the semifinals, a win versus Gladbrook Rhinebeck 38-30, giving them this championship appearance versus the Golden Bears. Taking a look at the stat line side of things from this Gladbrook game, and their win 38-30, Broden Pryor completed 13 of his 21 passes for 231 yards and 4 touchdowns. Leading rusher was Micah Morris, a junior. On set 27 attempts, had 102 yards and 1 touchdown, also caught for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. Leading receiver was Landon Bloom, a junior, like I mentioned earlier, with 5 receptions for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. Leader on the defensive side was Brenner Sullivan with 7 tackles and half a TFL. Overall, looking at this team stats for Woodbine, they had 133 rushing yards off of 38 attempts and 1 rushing touchdown. The rest were receiving. 231 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns on just 13 completions. When Woodbine makes a play in the receiving side of the game, it's going to be big, and you can always expect that out of them. On the defensive side of the ball, they had 39 total tackles, 24 solo tackles, 3 TFLs, and 1 sack, with 2 interceptions. Overall, Gladbrook gave Woodbine a run for their money. I personally thought Gladbrook was going to win this game, but Woodbine is a very solid team, and I did say it could go either way. It was a really hard one to predict, and I did think it was going to be a high-scoring game. I wasn't that far off in the margins. I did think that Gladbrook was going to score 42, and Woodbine was going to score 36. Overall, it was a really electric game. It was really fun to watch, and it was really exciting just to see the difference in Woodbine's offense versus Gladbrook's offense, and just to see these defenses try to stop these really powerhouse offenses. With that, we're going to take a look at this matchup between Garrigan and Woodbine this week. Looking at these two teams, these are the 2 best teams in all of 8-man football. Both these teams have had their journeys to get here, and it is finally time for the championship game. And what you've waited for, my breakdown and my prediction. This game will be hard for Garrigan, as it is something that you haven't seen all year. Most teams' general offensive scheme is a lot of rushing and a lot of running. Woodbine's is the complete opposite. It's very pass-heavy with minimal running. Garrigan's main target in this game is going to be Landon Bloom. He is going to be the guy that you are going to need to guard 24/7. He's a 6'4", 210 wide receiver that has many D1 offers, I believe 9. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the star on that team, and he is the leader in that offense. A key factor for Garrigan in this game, obviously, is going to be secondary. Can you guard the wide receivers? They've got other guys on the roster that can make big plays. Bloom is not the only one. Another key factor for Garrigan's success in this game is their defensive line. If they can force Broden Pryor to run, and if they can get some sacks on Broden Pryor, Garrigan has a very, very high chance of winning this title. Broden Pryor throws a very nice ball, and he has a really good offensive line, so it'll be hard to get to the quarterback, but if Garrigan's defensive line is able to, it will be very, very beneficial for the Golden Bears. We know that offense is going to go into the dome this week, and they are going to put up points. They're going to generate points. It's just what Garrigan does. That's why the defense is becoming such a key factor in this game. Garrigan's secondary needs to play the best that they have played all season. They need to be locked down at all times. Secondary is the number 1 key, and then getting to the quarterback obviously is number 2. If Garrigan can pull both of those off, I think Garrigan has this state title. Woodbine's key plays and factors to this game is going to be being able to put up offensive points. Garrigan's secondary is doing good, and they're able to get some sacks on Broden Pryor. Their run game is going to have to be good. They're going to have to be able to overcome secondary coverage, and they're going to have to be able to have other options rather than just throwing it. Their offense will generate points, like I said, but in case Garrigan's secondary starts shutting down Woodbine's receiving core, they need to have other options. Another factor for Woodbine going into this game is going to be their defense. They're going to need to stop Ethan Marceau. Ethan Marceau has been a beast in all of the games. He is Garrigan's best player. He just runs over everybody. We saw it with Audubon. We saw it with every other team that Garrigan has played this year, he has been the focal point of this Garrigan offense. Along with that, their secondary also needs to be tied down tight, because if you force Garrigan to throw, Garrigan will excel at the throwing. Safeforge is a very dominant thrower, and if you shut down the run, we will just throw it and we will perform just as well. Woodbine's defense needs to play out of their minds if they are going to stop Garrigan. Ethan Marceau is a hard guy to take down, Tate Birch is shifty, rolling out of the pocket, and Michael Joyce is a deep threat as a wide receiver. Woodbine's defense will be a key factor in this game, just to see how Garrigan's offense will perform and if they'll give them a challenge. Turnovers, all in all, for both teams will be a key factor in this game, as we saw 5 turnovers from Audubon, and that really changed the outcome and perspective of the game. Without further ado, we're going to get into my final predictions. Overall, this is a very, very hard game to predict. This is going to be an unbelievable game. I think this game is going to be really close. It's going to be really good, and it might be decided by 3 or 4 points. Garrigan's offense and Woodbine's offense are both just powerhouses, and it's really going to depend on how these defenses perform. It keeps cutting out, so I do apologize, but this game could go either way. It's going to be a very, very close, and I do think it will be a very, very high-scoring game. Similar to Garrigan's and Woodbine's games in the semifinals, it will be around that scoring margin, I believe. I think that Garrigan's defense is going to do everything they can to stop this Woodbine offense. I think their secondary is going to play the best that it has all season. Tate Birch leads all classes in interception. I think he's going to want this dome win very bad, and he's going to play the best he's ever played, both as a quarterback and as a safety. I think that Garrigan might be able to stop Woodbine's passing offense, and that will lead them to run the ball more, and it will lead to more opportunities for the Garrigan defensive line to stop them. Woodbine, yes, obviously will put up some points through their receiving, as they always do, but I think that offensive part of their scheme will be limited. With that, I am taking your Bishop Garrigan Golden Bears to win this game 45-39. I really do think that Garrigan will be able to pull off this win. I think the seniors want this win really badly, and I think that Garrigan will be able to limit Woodbine's passing offense and will be able to stop them in those ways. I think that Garrigan is just going to play out of their mind. It's going to be like what we saw in 2023 when we won the championship. Pure grit and determination will drive this team, and I think that they will win the state championship because of it. I think that the stars are going to align for Garrigan this Thursday, and I think that we will be coming home with the championship. Obviously, this game is very close, and it could go both ways. It is a very hard game to predict, but I think that Garrigan is going to be able to pull it off. With that, that is the end of this episode of BG Game Preview State Championship Edition. I'm going to go before my phone tells me that my iCloud storage is full again. With that, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below your predictions, tell me if you agree with mine, and we'll see where Thursday takes us. I'd like to thank you guys again for all the support on the videos throughout football season. I'm really excited for basketball season to come around, and I will be doing an outtakes video for the end of football season, just to kind of wrap it all up and show you some of the funny moments that I've had when filming this. Without further ado, this is Lucy Eisenbarth signing off on BG Game Preview.